Hey everybody, and welcome to the Growth Experience Podcast. I am your host, Chris Dye. Our hope is that by listening to this podcast, you realize that you have a gift. And by believing in your gift, you can uncover your purpose and have vision for your life. Whether you're listening in your car, at home, or watching on YouTube, thank you for tuning in, and let's go! What's up, everybody? Man, it's been way too long, but I'm so excited to be back. Welcome to the Growth Experience Podcast, episode 26. I'm just going to pretend like, we're picking up on an old relationship, because that's what I feel like we might have taken a little break. There's reasons for that, and I'll let you know. So I'm just going to pick up, right where we left off. So Will is now the guy. He's behind the camera. We promoted him even further. You guys, if you've been on this journey with us, you've seen him go from the corner to the wall, and now he's running the show. So shout out to Will Brooks, my main guy. Love you, buddy. Appreciate you. So much to divulge to our audience, and I'm super excited about that. I do want to do some housekeeping things first. First and foremost, I want to give a huge shout out to High Adventure Studios. I'm incredibly grateful to Pastor Dave Heigl and everybody, Jeff Klossmeyer. Thank you guys so much. Candy, thank you all so much for giving us the space to get started with the podcast. I could not be more grateful. So I just want to say thank you. That was on my heart. As you can tell, it looks a little different. We are now in our very own studio. And we created this inside of our real estate office to be an asset for our agents that partner with us, as well as the podcast itself. And so this is now the small beginnings of the Legacy Studios. And so I just want to kind of relish in this moment as well, because I'm super proud of the work that we've done, all of our sponsors, all the people that partner with us. Shout out to Statewide Mortgage, Ryan. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you. Community Land Title. I'll go right into my spiel that I have for you guys, and it's more than a spiel, but I'm going to pick back up right where I left off. But this episode is sponsored by Community Land Title. Community Land Title is a full-service land title and escrow settlement provider here to protect your real estate investments. When you work with their knowledgeable team, you will be guided through the process in a transparent and timely way. So everybody over at CLT, thank you guys so much. If you're a real estate agent, you do not have a title company that you trust, I highly recommend reaching out to Community Land Title. They're more than just sponsors for our podcast. They're our friends, and they are basically like family now, and they operate at a very high level in everything they do. We also have a new sponsor for the show, and this one I'm incredibly excited about. So in this culture, in this day and age, we are paying attention more now than ever before to mental health. And I've been racking my brain about how can I incorporate and spread resources for mental health to our audience, our agents, our families that we partner with, and our friends, and to the community, right? So I have partnered with an organization that provides online mental health therapy called BetterHelp. And if you've never heard of BetterHelp, they, like I said, are online, full service, pick your therapist. It's an incredible organization that operates nationwide as it's online. And, for me, in my story personally, I went through a really severe period of anxiety and depression. And if you know me, you would never have thought that something like that would touch me, right? What you're seeing on camera is how I operate in daily life. Happy-go-lucky, super extroverted, but there was a period in time where I had experienced, at that time, a back-breaking loss, and it was really the straw that broke the camel's back for all of the other loss and trauma that I had never dealt with in my life. And so I sought out therapy at that time I was in the military, and I sought out therapy through the VA, and I got to firsthand experience the importance of something that I kind of set on the back burner. I always kind of said, how is a therapist going to help me? They're not in my shoes. They're not going through what I went through. But I can tell you that it was a truly transformative experience. So we are now bringing that resource to you. So if you go to betterhelp.com/growthpod, you will be able to receive 10% off your first month of therapy with BetterHelp and get matched with a therapist who will listen to you and help you with your mental health needs. That's betterhelp.com/growthpod, betterhelp.com/growthpod, betterhelp.com/growthpod. I highly recommend you reach out and, like I said, find the right therapist for you. On top of that, we took some time off. We're getting things ready for Legacy Studios, for the media room. We had some incredible sponsorships. People step up and help us put that together. And then, of course, I got the COVID bug. So when I had planned on starting a couple weeks ago, I had to postpone everything. But we don't make excuses around here. We make commitments. And that is what I want to talk to you about today, because this podcast was a commitment for me at the beginning of the year that I said I was going to do it. I created a plan and followed through. And so I texted Will a couple days ago and I said, hey, I'm going to do a solo dolo pod. No more putting it off. It's time to get back on this thing because I love it so much. And I also find that it's valuable for our audience. And, whatever I have to share or say, I want to be able to share that with somebody. So today, we're going to talk about what it looks like just to make a commitment, right? Because I feel like that word has lost its weight. And the action behind the word even more so, because we kind of do stuff willy-nilly. We don't know what it truly feels like to commit to something. And I've had to walk through that myself. So first, I want to start off by defining what is a commitment, right? A commitment is an unwavering dedication to a person, goal, or cause. Now, I took some bits and pieces from some definitions that I think suit what I believe a commitment is. So I'm going to repeat that. Commitment is an unwavering dedication to a person, goal, or cause. Even within the break of the podcast, I was getting the room together and had an unwavering dedication to shooting the show because I love it so much. And you, as the audience, have provided so much feedback for me. I'll be honest, sometimes Raphael talked about it when he came on, is that sometimes there's an imposter syndrome. I'm not Ed Milet, I'm not Tony Robbins, I'm not Craig Groeschel, but they're not Chris Dye, right? So the people that I can help and reach and impact, I feel burdened to do so. And so I appreciate you so much for tuning into the show. And like I said, I'm committed. I'm committed to this show. I also want to talk about what should we be committed to, right? There are things that maybe we should, and maybe we shouldn't be committed to. Maybe we're committed to some behaviors that are destructive, right? Now, you're not coming out saying, hey, I'm committed to drug addiction, or I'm committed to, just the alcoholism, the many different struggles that we as a human being face every day. I'm committed to destructive relationships. You're not going to come out and say that, right? That would be kind of silly. But if you really stop and think about it, when you're in the middle of that behavior, you are committed to it because it's repetitive, it's negative, and it's something that tears you down, right? So I truly felt convicted, we'll talk about that word in a minute too, to just talk about some positive commitments. I have 5 big rocks. I've talked about it show to show, but I'm going to list them out for you again. Time, temple, talent, treasure, tree. Okay? These 5 rocks I've pretty much boiled down to if something doesn't fit inside of one of those buckets, it's probably not a healthy commitment. I want to focus on one specifically today. And I know I talked a little bit about the podcast. This would fall for me under time and talent, right? Takes time. It takes time to sit down, to map out what I'm going to say. I don't script anything. This is a map in front of me. You see me looking down a little bit. It is a map. It's a guideline. So that takes time. It takes time then to come sit and actually record it. It takes time then to... I appreciate Will because that's not my time, but his time to edit and post, right? So it takes time, but then also talents. I feel like this is something I enjoy, and if you enjoy it, it's probably in your gifting, which we'll talk about another time. But today I want to focus specifically on tree, which is your family, your friends, your close relationships. Here's a personal example of mine. When I first started real estate, I was so focused, and I started a Bibles and Business Bible study here at the office as well. And we talked about this the first time we met in August. I was so focused on the uncapped income potential of being a real estate agent that I neglected some things. I was so focused on becoming a public success, but it was at the expense of being a private failure. My family, for the first, especially 6, 7, 8 months of me being a real estate agent, didn't get a lot of me. Didn't hardly get any of me. I was working 7 days a week, answering my phone in church, because when you start that grind, you just have to be available, is what I told myself, right? I did not start with healthy boundaries. And what does that do? That can create bad habits. That can create those negative, destructive commitments that I just talked about at the beginning of the show. So now, paradigm shift, right? I talk to myself. I journal. I talk to Kelsey. We will have her back on the show for Family Matters. I know that's y'all's favorite segment instead of just hearing me talk to the camera and to the microphone. But now I work every day, and I write it down, and Kelsey doesn't know this. Honey, if you listen to this episode, you're going to hear this for the first time. But I literally write down, God, help me to find fulfillment in being with my family. Because I am the type of person that's an extreme achiever. I'm wired to work. I'm wired to achieve. I'm wired to win. I like to win. Everybody likes to win, but I love to win. And, that brings me fulfillment. It brings me purpose to win. And I've found later on it helps give me purpose to help see and help others win, right? When agents in our office win, that brings me fulfillment. Okay, that's fine. But I know that my priorities need to be, I also need to find fulfillment in being with my family. Even when I'm not with them, being fulfilled by my family, right? So when I come home at the end of the day and I hear all the kids yelling, "Daddy," and run in, give me a hug and hug my leg and stuff, I used to just make that a quick one-time event and then pop right back on my phone and work. And I have made myself put my phone up for a little while, longer periods at a time. We've talked about this before on a Family Matters series. Highly encourage you to go back and listen. I think it was the last one Kelsey and I did. But I tell you, I had created such negative habits, such destructive behaviors and commitments, that was a really difficult process for me to learn, right? What my habits are and to be able to correct them. So finding fulfillment with my family, and a big one, which we did talk about in Family Matters as well, is actually scheduling time off, right? So every time I leave the house, sometimes I would just jet, like my mind is on work already before I even leave the house. But now I make sure I hug all my kids. I give them a kiss on top of the head. I say I love you. Tell Kelsey I love her. I make that commitment to just love on them a little bit before I head to work. So that's a big one. Being on my phone less when I get home, and then scheduling time off. All right, I schedule a day off. That doesn't mean I don't work at all on those days. Just being honest, right? If an agent has a question, I answer it to the best of my ability. But most of the time, 90% of the time, I'm not working on those days. I'm doing something else. I'm going to a football game with my son, Noah. Or Kelsey and I have a date. Or whatever, right? So I just wanted to give that personal example of a commitment that I've made around my family, right? And so now we talked about what a commitment is, gave my personal example that, puts egg on my face, which hopefully I'd say on the show, connection creates vulnerability, or vulnerability creates connection. And so I hope that you can relate to that. And if you have any questions about that, you guys are always welcome to reach out to me. But now we got to talk about application, right? How do I actually make a commitment? How do we make a commitment, which is an unwavering dedication, right? I did a lot of things wrong in this area for the majority of my life. A lot of us think a commitment is making a Facebook post like, hey, I'm going to do this. And, that's all well and good. There's a place for that. But I don't think it starts there, right? I think it's important. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I don't think that's where you start, right? And, I would say I was committed to something, and then I wouldn't actually follow through. So I want to define, or we've defined commitment, but I want to tell you how to do so now. So a commitment starts with a conviction for me, right? I believe that if something hits my mind, or if I have some kind of vision or some kind of idea, I'm probably, and there are sometimes I'll get an idea and I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty good, but that's not the highest and best use of my time, or that doesn't fit right now, prioritizing one of those 5 big buckets, right? So, but if I feel something so strongly, the Legacy Network, brokered by EXP, to be a part of Her Hope Kentucky and anti-human trafficking efforts, those are the commitments that I'm involved in now. Those are big time commitments, right? And that all started with a conviction, which is a desire or a vision that is so strong within you that it cannot be ignored. That's what a conviction is. So this is kind of the part that I got wrong. If you've listened to the show, watched the show for any amount of time, that I'm a faith-based guy, right? So the first step is what I believe is the most important. And there's 4 of them. It's truncated today. We'll make it short. Step 1, commit your actions to the Lord and your plans will succeed. That is a verse out of Proverbs. So I'll read it one more time. Commit your actions to the Lord and your plans will succeed. So now, whenever I feel a conviction to do something, to execute an idea, I'll pray about it. I'll say, God, is this something that you want me to do? I feel a certain type of way. I feel like I'm communicating with the Holy Spirit, and He says yes. Then we'll move on to step 2, which is create a plan, right? That's where the first one, or when I spoke earlier about, just shouting out like, hey, I'm going to do this thing. But you don't have a plan. Success is in your process. If you don't have a process, the percentage of chance that you're successful goes way down. And I know this from experience, y'all. I'm like the worst perpetrator of, yeah, let's do this thing, and then not creating a plan, and it flops on its face. it's incredibly hard for me to create a plan. It's incredibly hard for a lot of people. I am a high D personality. I can go, and I do not sit down and take the necessary steps normally to create this plan. That's why this really didn't come to fruition, what we're doing on the real estate side, until I brought Will in, and he agreed to come alongside and help me implement the vision, right? Well, he couldn't implement the vision if we didn't have a vision. So we created this plan, this vision, and God rewards consistency consistently, right? If you're doing something consistent, that's part of those actions that he said will succeed. If you commit those actions to him, your plans will succeed. He will reward that. He will, and it's not often in the timing or the outcome that we desire, right? Sometimes we focus so much on the result that we don't actually understand what's helping us get to the goal. You know, John Maxwell, listened to a podcast this week, and he said, and I've always felt this way, but I didn't know how to verbalize it. And I was so, I feel like misunderstood, right? Because whenever I talk about goals or anything with anybody else, it just never really sat right to me. And so he said this. He said, I'm not a goal-oriented person. I'm a growth-oriented person. Now, John Maxwell has done some things. Dude's written several books, speaks all the time. You would think that he sits down with a list and says, I have a goal to do this. I have a goal to do this. But he said, no, as long as I keep on a trajectory of growth, I'm going to accomplish goals along the way. And if you're on that trajectory of growth, you'll never stop, right? Instead of having just a one-hit wonder or whatever, you write one book, or, you write a song, or you sell a house. That's all well and good. Obviously, every real estate agent has a goal to sell their first house. So all too often we focus on the result, and we don't actually think about what's going to get us there. And so, like I said, being a huge John Maxwell fan and him talking about, being on a growth plan instead of being on a goal plan, I recommend that thought process to you as well. And that's something that I have scratched the surface on, but now that I actually have a conceptualization of what that looks like, I'm diving all in on a growth plan. So step 1, commit your actions to the Lord. Step 2, create a plan. Step 3, now you can let people around you. Now you can actually tell somebody the plan, the vision. The step 2 of, hey, I've created the plan. This is what we're trying to do. This is where we desire to go. And here's a cool part. If you've got a great plan, you can speak to it with passion, right? And the right people will connect with you to come alongside you and hold your arms up in the battle. Because let's be honest, every big commitment, every large thing, or every important thing that I've ever committed to, I've had some adversity in those commitments. I've had adversity along the way of what I'm trying to accomplish. And you probably have too. So I would say now, instead of putting, a lot of times like I did, putting this as step 1, let's put it in step 3, bring people around you to support your dream and your vision. And now it becomes a collective vision. Now it becomes a collaborative process rather than me just saying, here's what I want to do. People desire to be in community and be part of something bigger than themselves. And I'm going to go ahead and add that when it's for him, and like I said, you've committed those actions to him, he tells us, your plans will succeed. And a lot of times, what do? We start with step 3, or maybe we kind of create a halfway plan. And then when it doesn't work or it's not working, we're saying, oh, dear God, will you please help me do this? Instead of doing that on the front end, like, God, this is what I feel like you're telling me to do. here's the actions and the plan that I feel like is going to get us there. Here's the people that come along the way, right? Having that order. God is not a genie God. He's not if you're trying to do something big, you're going to need His help and then the help of others. I was introduced to a book called Who Not How. I think I've talked about that book on the show before, but it truly transformed my ideas and thought processes behind having people around me. But I had the vision, right? I had the plan, and that made it easier. So going on to the last step now. Before I say that, when you do start to bring people around you and share that vision, you'll find out really quick who's with you and who's not, right? Who believes in you and who doesn't. And, the ones who believe in you, bring them with you and run. The ones who don't, bless them. And maybe it's a timing thing. Maybe it's a never thing. You never really know. You could be totally drawn to a person to help with the vision that you're trying to create and you're trying to build. And that it's just not a good fit, right? And so don't be discouraged by that. I felt like I had to say that too, add that in. Just bless them and thank them for talking with you and let them know it's all good, right? No hard feelings. Okay, step 4, the last step in a commitment is move. Now, freaking move, act, right? No analysis paralysis. Take forward motion every single day towards the plan that you've created, and then you can watch it come to fruition. I have not been perfect, but one of the 5 buckets, temple, mind and body. We talked about mental health at the beginning of the show. Physical health is just as important. What we eat, nutrition, how we exercise. And so I've made a commitment to get up and go to the gym every single day. Kelsey, my wife, has also made a commitment to go to the gym. And her class that she likes to take is at 6 a.m., and I really like to be in the office by 8:30, so that really doesn't work for me to work out after she gets home. So Will can attest. You can come around to the front of the camera if you want. He got a notification this morning that I was at the gym at 4:30, and I completed my workout and went home. So I've made a commitment to myself, created a plan. A plan can literally be time blocking, right? Putting it in your schedule. What's important? How are you going to accomplish the vision? That's the plan. So I have it time blocked every day to go to the gym, and I have been consistently, not every day. It's not going to be perfect. I missed yesterday, but I've also, within that plan, created a fail-safe that, hey, I'm never going to skip the gym 2 days in a row, right? That's another part of my plan. So if you need help creating a plan for this vision that you've been given, I'd love to talk to you about that. But like I said, now take forward action, motion towards the plan you've created. I recently started coaching with Coach Michael Burt out of Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and I love one of the things he says. He believes and states that you lose 10% of the momentum every day that you don't take action. How powerful is that? You lose 10% of the momentum every day you don't take action. So I'll go back to the example of the podcast. At the beginning, we were so hyped and excited to start our own media room, but then it gets cumbersome, right? We put some sound panels on the wall. We had to buy lights, and we had to get mics, and we had to set up the mics and the cameras to the computer, which that's given us a little bit of a headache, but we're figuring it out, right? We're working. We're doing the forward motion towards the plan. So, we bought a green screen and some more lights and a phone stand and all these different things, right? So you can easily get bogged down in the day-to-day, the task list that you don't enjoy doing, right? There's a lot of things I do on a daily basis that I do not enjoy. I'm just being honest. But that's what it takes to move the needle forward in your business. If you're a business owner, move the needle forward in your relationships. Sometimes when you come home, you don't want to ask your significant other how their day was because your day sucked, right? Like, you didn't have a good day, so you don't feel like asking somebody else how their day went. But you have to, right? That's you investing in your relationships. in your tree, right? Which we talked about at the beginning as well. So within that movement and the momentum is huge. If you're an athlete, if you watch football, they're not, college football, especially NFL, they talk about momentum and how important momentum is. One play can swing the momentum in the favor of the other team, right? And then it snowballs, can create a snowball effect. That's the same thing in your plans and your visions of what you want to do. Every day I didn't take action to get in this seat and do this show, it got harder to do it. And so that's where this week I text Will and I said, no more putting it off. It's time to go. And you're going to see a renewed commitment to what the growth experience is all about, the content that we provide, my energy. I feel like this feels like home to me. There's something to be said for when you're in your own space, you're using your own equipment. I'm very grateful for the initial season that we had, but now I just feel like I'm ready to go, Jack. So anyway, with that, I will tell you got to be patient. You got to be patient. This is another failure that I have had, and I want to be the first to say you only fail if you quit, but you can have like micro failures is what I call them. Like you're on the pursuit of something and you take a wrong step, or you miss a part of the plan that you needed to create. You don't have it, right? So then you have to go back and amend the plan because we're adapting and learning all the time. Plan's never going to be perfect, right? So being patient is huge. It's probably my biggest struggle. It's something that I believe God has worked on me specifically in this area of my life. It's a fruit of the Spirit, knowing that you have been baptized with the Holy Spirit. Patience is one of the hardest ones for me. I'm joyful, I'm kind. Self-discipline is probably one of the other ones I struggle with. I can easily obtain peace, but patience is something that I've had to constantly work on even still. So I want to encourage you, maybe you're working on something right now and it's not going the direction that you want it to go. Just be patient, man. Have those people share with the people that are around you. If I'm having a struggle, I'll call Will and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. What does this look like? Is this something that, is going to be obtainable, or are we just kind of pie in the sky wishing here, right? And he always usually calms me down and brings me back down to reality, because I can get going pretty quick. One of Michael Burt's sayings as well, into the sewer cycle, which is a cycle of negative thinking, right? He calls it negative town. So anyway, shout out to Coach Michael Burt. Appreciate you, man. I'm looking forward to continuing our work together, but I felt it necessary to just talk about commitment. We need a renewed commitment to our purpose in our lives, our talents and our giftings, which is what this show is all about, to being on a growth plan. That's why it's called the growth experience. That's why I named it that, because we got to have that growth-minded trajectory rather than just trying to accomplish these goals that may not even be within our wheelhouse. They might not even be meant for us. We just might have seen somebody else do it. Oh, and now I want to do it because they obtained that level of success. And so if I do what they do, then I'll get there too. Maybe not. Maybe it's not the right trajectory for you. So recommit yourself to understanding what a commitment actually is and being able to discern, how do I make a commitment? What do I need to be committed to? And so I hope that this episode has been helpful for you. We're back, baby. This is going to be weekly again. I'm so excited to bring it back around and share this content with you. It would be a huge blessing to me if you would like, share, subscribe. This show on every podcast platform, Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, YouTube. If you're watching us, thank you. I really appreciate all of our viewers on YouTube, and I'm excited to see us pick back up because, like I said, I feel a renewed energy around what we're doing with the show and the purpose of it, and I can't wait to bring more guests onto the show that provide just a valuable perspective of their story and what they're going through in their lives. So we will continue to do that just as we did before, and I'm really pumped I can't tell you how pumped I am to continue what we're doing here, because I think it's important. Again, I want to remind you that this show is sponsored by Community Land Title. CLT is a full-service land, title, and escrow settlement provider here to protect your real estate investments. When you work with their knowledgeable team, you'll be guided through the process in a transparent and timely way. Please, please, please go to betterhelp.com, betterhelp.com/growthpod to receive 10% off of your first month of therapy sessions. I know we're not as transparent about this sometimes. It feels negative, but please tap into your mental health, especially if you're struggling. Do not wait. Do not wait, please. And I would love to connect with you and let me know about your experience and how maybe I can help as well. I've got some people on my prayer list. Even if that's all I can do, then I would love to be able to do that for you. So yes, Community Land Title, betterhelp.com, and I look forward to seeing you next time. And just like always, I'll leave you with this. You have a gift. It's time to grow in it.